Everyone had a game that they were completely obsessed with when they were little. For me, that was Spider-Man for the Nintendo 64. I remember spending countless hours playing this thing as a little boy, beating it over and over and over again, even though it only took me like a week to beat it for the first time. And as soon as I beat it, I just started playing it all over again. For me, this was one of my first Nintendo 64 games, and it was also my first Spider-Man experience. And God, it was the perfect way to start off my love for Spider-Man. And when I think of the ideal Spider-Man, to this day I still immediately think of this game. And I'm not saying a game has to have good graphics to be considered a good game, but one of the main problems with games nowadays is that a trailer will show it as being really badass, and when you spend your $60, you get the game and you put it into your console, it turns out to be a load of shit. But even replaying Spider-Man for Nintendo 64 now, it holds up and is still a whole lot of fun. Just as much fun as I remember. However, there are some new issues that have come up replaying the game that I never really noticed when I was little. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved playing Spider-Man for PS4, but it always felt like something was missing from the game when I was playing it. Yet the Nintendo 64 game always felt like it was perfect and nothing really needed to be changed. I wanted to revisit the game and see if I loved it out of pure nostalgia, or if it really was that good. So let's see if this game still holds up as one of the best Spider-Man games ever made. Okay, I'll be honest. I did not pay attention at all to the story growing up. I just knew that there was Spider-Man, and he had to take the villains down because he's Spider-Man. I think I was playing it around the age of 5 or 6, and I wanted to get right to the gameplay, so my ADHD-filled brain could not handle reading, knowing that pure action was waiting on the other side. I just skipped anything with words and got right to it. Oh yeah, for those of you who did not know, the definitive version of this game, I'm talking about the Nintendo 64 cartridge of course, had these. And I had no clue that other versions had something completely different. Me and my friend were actually talking about this game a few years ago, and he grew up playing the PlayStation version. Well, he still had his copy, he popped it into his PlayStation 2, and for the first time in my life, I saw this.
Technology is the light that will cut through the darkness. When humanity conforms to a single truth, a truth based in technological progress and scientific method.
What the fuck? This game has pre-rendered cutscenes with Spider-Man actually moving, talking, and interacting with other characters. The people actually move and talk instead of a fucking Windows PowerPoint. I would have been way more interested if I saw this instead of reading. Anyways, you start the game off at a science expo for Doc Ock's new invention or whatever to better mankind, and Spider-Man is framed by another fake Spider-Man. And Peter Parker is actually in the crowd watching all of this go down. The real Spider-Man gets blamed for everything and tries to find the imposter. The imposter! All while everybody is after him. The police, villains, a freaking helicopter shooting rockets, and eventually some other Marvel heroes go after him as well. Oh, and Doc Ock in this series figure released gas in New York, and that's why he can't swing around freely because of the hardware limitations of the older generation. Which is actually kind of clever. I didn't know that was the reason you couldn't see New York in full as a kid. Then again, I was a stinky dumb boy with a rat tail. This story makes a lot of sense to me now that I can completely understand it and flip through these boring ass comic book pages. Now I will admit, replaying the game, it does not control as good as I remember. In fact, it was extremely annoying at some points. It still is good for a Nintendo 64 game, but it did get frustrating at times. Okay, turn around, make a web cocoon, come on, I'm almost dead, come on! Oh, I still got this, I can still make it, come on, ah, god damn it! Fuck! The clunkiest part of the mechanics is crawling on the walls, getting stuck on poles, and the button combinations when trying to use Spidey's moveset. When crawling over a platform that is kind of sticking out from a building, The controls get confused and either keep going completely straight even though you are holding towards a different direction. I just try to avoid this altogether and either web zip or jump to where I don't have to climb. I actually use the web zip mechanic way more when I replayed it. It works surprisingly well for this game, and it was incredibly frustrating running from this fucking helicopter because sometimes I would get stuck on a pole sticking out of the ground and I would get killed. Anything that was straight and sticking out of the ground could get you stuck. Spider-Man would just be stuck in one place and the only way to get out of it is to jump. Which sucks if you're low on health or in a hurry. I don't understand the web controls in this game. I've tried pressing different C buttons in combination with the control stick, like it showed me in the directions, in the manual, and it felt like I was getting a different move every single time. When I wanted to make a web cocoon, I would just shoot my webs. The same goes for simply shooting a web ball. I got so pissed at some parts of this game because I was pressing the exact button combinations I needed to do a specific move, but I had like a 50% chance of getting the move I wanted. The controllers are very dated and can make you so frustrated you'll want to quit the game at times. But I promise, if you love Spider-Man and can get past this, I would say this is an essential Spider-Man game to play. Now the fighting. I touched on this earlier. A lot of mechanics in this game aren't bad, but you have to control them using the Nintendo 64 controller. I mean, look at this thing. Now, I will admit I didn't use the original Nintendo 64 controller. I used a retro something, I can't remember the name of it. It's basically like a Nintendo 64 controller, just without that prong in the middle, and the control stick's a little bit bigger. Anyways, I still had a little bit of trouble, and I will explain. You will end up having issues at one point. Nothing is super precise. It's a learning curve. I will admit that I had to look up the moves list to remember everything. I knew you could grab enemies in the game, but for the life of me, I could not remember how. You have to be right up next to a bad guy to hit them, especially any combo moves, like just hitting them 3 times in a row. And enemies will hit you right away if you are within the exact distance needed. They just hit you over and over and over pretty quickly until you hit them or you die. And this sucks butt if you are surrounded by enemies. You will die unless you jump out of there. They hit you back to back to back to back. They won't give you a chance. It is easier just shooting your webs or creating an exploding web cocoon in some cases. Now, fighting with your webs in this game was a lot more fun and easier than punching and kicking, if you can actually perform the web move you want. Damn it! I do love the variety of special web moves for such a dated game. Spider-Man can shoot web balls, create sort of a web cocoon that explodes, and covers his hands in webs to make his punches way more powerful, if you can hit them. You can also grab an enemy and throw them across the room using your webs, but you have to hit the C up button and press down on the control stick at the exact right time in combination, or you end up just barely shooting your web at them, which is just as annoying as walking through a fucking spider web. You can also grab an enemy, jump on them, and punch them in the side of their temple until they have permanent brain damage. You can also grab them and kick them away from you, and I didn't even know you could do this until I got to the Carnage level. I mean, it doesn't even show you in the moves list that you can grab an enemy. You have to press the up and left C buttons to grab. How could I have known that? Again, for being the first 3-dimensional Spider-Man game, these fighting mechanics are very fun and clever ways for Spider-Man to fight. I love that they didn't just resort to punching and shooting a web for Spider-Man. They added these special moves that show a variety of ways Spider-Man can fight, which kept combat pretty interesting from beginning to the end of the game.
Nowhere to go but up.
I love all of the levels in this game. All of them are so memorable to me. There's different music tracks for each level that absolutely bop. Each level looks completely different than the last. While some look plain, they are still fun to explore. I love the secret spots that are hidden throughout this game. I honestly thought that I was the first one to find them, like this one hidden behind the waterfall in the sewer. The first level opens showing that it is midday, and you have to stop a hostage situation, preventing a bank heist while also stopping a gigantic bomb from exploding at the same time. All of these levels feel so Spider-Man to me, like it was ripped right from the comic book, and not this shit. I love the helicopter chase level because it constantly keeps the player on their toes, knowing that if you stop for just 1 second, you will be shot. The sewer levels are very dark and spooky. I can't believe I just said spooky. They actually feel like you are deep underground in the city of New York in this completely different world. It sucks butt though, I gotta say butt a lot. It sucks butt though when Spider-Man falls in like 2 feet of water and drowns. It makes no sense. The atmosphere and environment are specific to each level. They add different emotions to the level the player is playing. The first level introduces you to Spider-Man, and it doesn't feel like a lot is at stake. However, not even 6 levels later, you're getting chased by literally every type of law enforcement in the game, and every villain is after you, and the sewer is creepy, and damn it, these pink shits are hard. Why does this look like toilet paper? Everything gets intense pretty quickly. Even though most of New York is covered by this fog, the world in the game feels so big to me. My personal favorite level has to be the warehouse level. You have to fight these pink symbiotes and firewebs are scattered all throughout the level. I thought this was so cool, just burning these little shits alive. The music was also lit as fuck in this level. I remember getting so giddy when Spider-Man fell through the ceiling and the warehouse level music started playing, which is why I used it for the intro for this video. It gets me so pumped every time I listen to it. In conclusion, the warehouse level is also my favorite level because of this one joke Spider-Man makes. I'm ashamed to admit that I actually laughed out loud when I heard this.
This place blows.
Ha! The web swinging in this game is alright. It's not horrible. You can get from point A to point B sometimes, kind of like the first car that you had in high school. Spidey's automated in a way when swinging, you just aim at what building you want to go to, jump and press L. But the building has to be close, not too far away. If it is far away, or just barely outside of that perfect zone to web swing, Spidey will just fall, and you frantically hold the control stick forward and tap the ass out of the L button and pray to God you'll eventually web swing to the spot you want to go to. If not, you'll fall to your death into the abyss of hardware limitation. The web swinging works way better when you're inside, there's a lot of space, and nowhere to fall. However, once you web swing, you're going straight forward, not anywhere else. You can also cancel the web swing by pressing A, and it has like 0 latency. It cancels immediately as soon as you press that button. It's also cool when you hold L when you're on top of a building, and Spidey does a jump and swing animation. It is a little slower, but it looks pretty cool. You can also hold L and aim at a specific spot to web swing more precisely to that area. But man, sometimes when you're inside and web swinging, especially in the last boss level, you get stuck on walls so easily. So you have to be careful where you're swinging, if you're playing a fast-tailing mission or having to get across a level with turrets shooting at you. For being the first 3-dimensional Spider-Man game, the web swinging is pretty impressive for its time. Definitely could be improved for future games, but great for making a 90s baby feel like they are Spider-Man swinging around in this world. Spider-Man has tons of the most iconic villains ever created, and most of them are in this game. You've got Scorpion, Rhino, Venom, Mysterio, Carnage, Doc Ock, and for the first time ever, Carnage Doc Ock, or Monster Ock as it's called in the game. I'll get to him later. This was probably one of my only issues with Spider-Man for PS4. And don't get me wrong, like I said earlier, that game is amazing, but with the main boss fights, all you have to do is dodge and evade. At least with this game, the Nintendo 64 version, you have to do certain tasks or objectives to deplete the boss's health bar, or the villains did different things to make each fight feel different. And these boss fights are so unique. Everyone feels completely different from the last. When fighting Scorpion, you mainly just have to dodge and evade while making sure he doesn't kill J. Jonah Jameson at the same time. But with Rhino, you have to dodge and evade again, but you have to stand in a specific spot so he can charge at you and electrocute himself because he's a dumbass. You can go right up to him and hit him, but he'll kill you pretty quickly. Personally, Venom is my favorite anti-hero / villain. In the Venom boss fights, Venom disappears if you make the wrong move or if you can't get to him fast enough. The second time you fight him, you have to run around to different spots while also making sure MJ doesn't drown. I don't understand why she can't pull herself up or how she lasts this long hanging. Have you ever tried hanging on a rope or a chain for more than 5 minutes? It's fucking hard. She must have some crazy ass lats. I found the second fight to be very annoying. When you can clearly see him at the other side of the area and you start running towards him, if you don't get there fast enough, he shoots a web pulling you towards him while saying, "Get back here, not too far, not so fast, get back here." I was already on my way to kick your ass. You don't have to bring me towards you and just make the fight even more difficult and annoying. The way this fight ends makes no sense. After levels of Venom chasing you, kidnapping your wife, and trying to kill you, he finally realizes, oh yeah, you were in the crowd with me when this whole thing happened, so you didn't do it. My bad. It's kind of anticlimactic. However, I'm glad this happened. I love that Venom and Spider-Man teamed up and were actually friends in this game instead of being enemies. It had so much character to Venom instead of him being placed in the game solely for Spider-Man to fight. Now the Mysterio boss fight is my favorite boss fight in the whole game. Venom is my favorite villain, if that makes sense, but the Mysterio boss fight was the most fun to me. Mysterio grows into a giant like Giant Man. There are 3 levels of the platform that Spider-Man can ascend or descend to. Each platform shows that Mysterio has a weak spot for Spider-Man to hit. Once you destroy all the flashy light thingies, staying on the tippy top platform is required. At that point, you just shoot his Illuminati symbols and his helmet until he's defeated. I hate to admit that I actually chuckled at some of the quips Spider-Man made during this boss fight. I actually chuckled at a lot of cheesy quips in this game.
Capes are out this year.
Ha!
Get a breath, man.
Ha!
Rhino burgers coming up.
Ha!
For the others.
Ha!
Plus, I don't know what it is, but I love Mysterio's voice. If only Jake Gyllenhaal sounded like this in Spider-Man Far From Home.
No, little spider, you will die!
After the Mysterio boss fight, the remaining 2 kind of take a dip. They weren't nearly as challenging and they're pretty quick. Spider-Man just runs from Doc Ock and waits for these 4 buttons to come down and Spider-Man hits them. It was pretty easy to not get hit by his metal arms. Once you activate the 4 switches, Doc Ock just kind of hangs there while you beat the shit out of him. And when fighting Carnage, all you have to do is get him in the Sonic Chamber, which I couldn't figure out at first like I mentioned earlier, but you just grab him and you kick him in there and he becomes paralyzed. This dude scared the shit out of me when I was little. I mean, listen to this.
Here I come! Die! Die! Die!
What kid wants to hear this? Nothing scared me more, though, than Monster Rock.
Is that Ock?
The final boss fight stressed me out more than anything when I was little. I tried beating it over and over and over again. Not only was it stressful, but it scared the shit out of me. I would rather pay bills and do adult stuff than play this level. That's how much stress it caused. Monster Rock is constantly doing this gasping for air scream as he is chasing you. That would make a grown man poop another grown man's pants. He's also right on your ass the entire way. My heart almost gave out every time I accidentally got stuck on a wall or beam, and he literally gets on top of you. Getting stuck on a beam or wall made my heart just skip a beat every single time. All you had to do in this final level was just run, just get away, and it was difficult to do just that. But man, finally seeing that last door to beating the game while hearing was the closest I'll ever get to feeling absolute peace. I felt like this weight was slowly being lifted off of my chest. Then I died and had to do it all over again. But really seeing it, really reaching it, was the biggest reward I could ask for. Knowing that you cleared it, you did it, no more Monster Rock, no more screaming, just this. This was the only time I actually liked seeing the slideshow. Now, the last comic strip slideshow thing didn't really blow me away because, again, it is just reading. I still thought it was cool seeing Captain America, the Punisher, Daredevil, Spider-Man all interacting together, but man, my heart was still beating out of my chest after the final mission, so it was kind of hard to enjoy anything after that. Side note, what the hell is Human Torch and Black Cat doing in this? Spider-Man says to keep it down and it just cuts to them holding their hands up and telling Spider-Man to lighten up. Were they doing dirty stuff? I don't know, because they aren't real cutscenes! Seeing the villains that you beat throughout the game all locked up together was utterly satisfying. The game felt like it was truly beaten at this point. The Sinister Six is locked up, and Spider-Man can finally relax, and Human Torch and Black Cat can do whatever this is.
It's not over yet.
I haven't beaten this game in well over 10 years. In fact, this was the first time I beat it on normal, and it was a lot harder than I remember. I still had as much fun as I did when I was playing it at 7 years old. Most games that I've tried to replay don't have the same excitement and urge to play as much as this 20-year-old game did for me. This little red cartridge is a staple of my childhood. When I look back at this game and play it, it makes me remember what it was like to be 7 years old again. The extreme curiosity, no stress, no worries, the pure drug that is called nostalgia. I love this game like I love a brother. With all that said, putting nostalgia to the side and trying to look at this game like I'm playing it for the first time, I would honestly give it like a 6.5 out of 10. That's only because the controls suck sometimes and there are a few game-stopping bugs that are out of your control and make you have to restart the entire level.
So yeah, there's a glitch where Peter can fucking just fucking walk up the wall. Oh, don't do it. Don't, you fucking bitch. Fuck! Jesus Christ!
But who cares about a review score, especially my opinion. Bottom line, this game screams Spider-Man and really makes me remember why I love the comic book character so much. He is more than a comic book character to me. He helped me through my childhood, made me feel better when I was having a bad day at school, and made me want to be a better person, make the right decisions for the good of other people. I will always love this game, and I don't think another Spider-Man game can compare to the feelings I have for this one. But holy shit am I excited for Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PS5. I mean, look how good this looks! This looks amazing! God, I'm so excited!